Cool. Okay. Thanks everybody for joining again. My name is Fatima and I'm one of the directors of Women Who Code. You've probably met me in other events, but for anybody that is new here. So this event is for, we are going to be talking about roles in tech. So we have 4 panelists that we get through that as well, to just review the mission and vision of Women Who Code. Our mission is inspiring women to excel in technology careers, and our vision is a world where women are representative as technical executive founders, VCs, and board members, and software engineers. This is the agenda. So until 7, we're going to have our panel discussion, and 7 to 7:30, any questions that you might have outside of the panel discussion, feel free to do. Just a reminder, if you are not talking, make sure to mute yourself. And if you feel comfortable, turn on your video. It's just great to see people's faces now, since we can't see many people's. This is just an overview of Code of Conduct. Women Who Code is an inclusive community, so we don't discriminate. And if you need to read more about the details of it, you can go to the link that we have in here and review the Code of Conduct. And here are panelists that we're happy to have them here. So I will let them introduce themselves. We can start from the top left, from Jessica Abbott, she's actually another director for Women Who Code, but I will let you introduce yourself.
I'm Jessica Abbott. I'm director of interactive design at Visi Courseware. I just noticed that's wrong. She actually asked me to review this and I still didn't see that. What else should I share right now? Because I know we're going to dive into a lot more later.
Yeah,
but
I think that's
good.
Just
okay.
Yeah, your title, where you work at. Yeah, Jessica D.
Yes, I am Jessica Demery. My title is Senior Solution Architect, but also I'm a manager of other solution architects at Lev. We are a Salesforce Marketing Cloud partner.
Cool.
All good.
And Rutha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amrutha Pulikodal, and I'm a data scientist at KSM Consulting. We're a consulting company based downtown, and we do more than data science, but I work on the data science team.
Cool. Thank you again. Haley?
I'm Haley Vining, and I work at Capato. It's a little spelled wrong too, but I'm at Capato. I work in product marketing. My title is Senior Product Marketing Manager, but I have a background in digital marketing and then product management. So I'm kind of combining my 2 former careers into one.
Cool. That's good to hear. I just realized that we might have misspelled that in the meetup too.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah. Oh, and I should, for context, Capato is the largest DevOps solution for Salesforce. So work 100% in the Salesforce ecosystem. And I work directly with release managers, DevOps engineers, and different roles like that. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I think now we are going to go through some of the questions we already had. So I will just start randomly with Amrutha. How long have you been at your job, and the specific job, and also how long you've been in the tech field?
Sure. So I've actually only worked for KSMC for 7 months now, but I've been in the data analytics realm for about 5 years in total, mostly in consulting, some startup, and then I work for a marketing company as well for a little bit.
Oh, that's exciting. I didn't know you worked for a marketing company. That's cool. I would say Jessica D, even though I know the answer, but.
I've been working at Lev for 2.5 years. I became a manager about 1.5 years ago. When I started, I was the first female solution architect. Fate was the second. And then I was also the first female solution architect manager. So that was a little interesting. But my background is also not in tech. I had a degree in art. And then from there, I did some sales, and I worked at the Art Institute where I did some interviewing and admissions work. And then I weaseled my way into Angie's List, into building emails, barely knowing what I was doing, and basically just learned everything I could, bootstrap, and just try to figure it out myself. And then got into Salesforce and sat next to all of the right people and just learned everything I could from everyone around me. So just kind of the sponge way.
That's cool.
Learn things. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I think Haley, how about you? How long have you been?
Well, I've been at Capato. This is my third week. But I started my career working for digital marketing agencies in Indianapolis. Worked as a digital content and UX strategist for several years, and then made my way into the Salesforce ecosystem as a product manager. And before that, I was basically a product manager for websites, so it made sense. The move made sense, and kind of fell in love with the Salesforce ecosystem. Similar to Jessica, tried to learn as much as I possibly could. And then recently have moved over to Capato. I was at a consulting partner for a while. Now I've moved over to Capato with a handful of team members who have left Aperio, which is also a big company in Indianapolis, to come over to Capato. So
that's cool. Yeah, we have actually one of my team members, because I'm a manager as well as Jessica. One of my team member that is actually now on Jessica's team. He used to be at Aperio too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have left Aperio recently, but it was a great experience, and I am very, very grateful for it.
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes acquisitions happen. It's now your turn, Jessica Abbott.
All right. Yeah, I was just looking this up before this call started. I have been at my current job going on 13 years. It'll be 13 years in a few weeks here, which is crazy to me. But I've been in tech 15, I guess, basically my entire career. But I wasn't a programmer when I started out. I started out in email marketing. I similarly have a degree that's in art, or a Bachelor of Arts in Telecommunications. And so the programming has been all on the job learning as I go along for my current job. So, and I guess I didn't share Visi Courseware. We make digital textbooks for higher education mostly, although we're starting to get into training for corporate training now. So
that's cool. I think both Jessicas, you both said what field you studied, your educational background. So I will ask Haley, what is your educational background?
Yep, my educational background is similar, not in tech. My degree is in creative writing. Yeah, so
that's cool.
I do think there are some connections to what I do now. As an English major, you do a lot of critical thinking and a lot of analysis of patterns and why people behave the way they do, and you do a lot of that in marketing as well.
That's great. Amrutha, how about you?
Yeah, I don't have a computer science or programming degree either. I studied political science in my bachelor's and peace and conflict transformation. I was going to be a war journalist a long time ago.
Wow.
And then my master's, I studied political science as well. So any coding I know now is something I've just taught myself over time.
That's cool. That's exciting. I didn't
realize the whole panel was like.
So I know, that's why I was like, this is interesting.
I was like I was so worried I was just be like, yeah, this weirdo that doesn't really know.
Yeah.
Taught herself how to do this, but that makes me feel better.
Yeah, that is definitely, this is really cool, because I think this shows people that are here in the event that you don't have to have a degree in computer to get to a tech field. Yeah, so I think just talking about like your degrees definitely was different. Like what made you interested in the tech field, like to even start getting in that area? I'd say I can start with Jessica A. since.
Okay, sure, yeah. Oh my gosh, so I wanted to be like everything. Like growing up, I was like every answer to everything. Like I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to be a marine biologist, I wanted to be a scientist, I wanted to be everything. And so I went to college undecided, and I originally went into TCOM thinking I wanted to make movies. And then I took one of the pre-TCOM classes. We had to make websites as a way of like as our instead of writing a paper, we had to make a website to show that we understood a topic. And I was like, oh, this I like, this I want to do. So I stayed in the TCOM degree and I got a multimedia emphasis, but I kind of knew like that's when that bug hit me and I was like, ooh, I want to do web stuff. So I started out more on the UX side, and that's really what the TCOM degree was focused on. And then, like I said, once I got into my current job is when I started to really get into the more of the programming side of it.
So you did, yeah. So this, it wasn't something that you knew originally that you were gonna get into tech. It was just,
no way.
you ended up in there just because you were doing a project. And
Yeah.
it was interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think Netscape Navigator
Mhm.
gave myself a little bit.
That's yeah. How about you, Haley? What drawn you into tech?
I think so. Growing up, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I actually went to school to be a physician assistant and found out really quickly that I'm not meant for the medical field, not really a blood person. And so I didn't know what a lot of different career opportunities were coming out of school. So I knew I wanted to do a post-grad program to kind of help me figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really torn between Teach for America and a program in Indianapolis called the Orr Fellowship. And something in my gut felt right about the Orr Fellowship. So I did that, and I started out in a company as a copywriter, in an agency as a copywriter, and I did not like being a copywriter despite being a creative writing major, very different types of writing. And so, but I did like this idea, this user experience thing, and how people were engaging with the content, how they behaved and why they did what they did, and things like personas and understanding why somebody would want to buy your product and what their motivators are. So moved into more of a marketing strategy role. Was lucky enough to do that. And then as I got closer, we would make requests to web teams. And sometimes what's great for marketing isn't actually how you build a website. And so that got me really interested in, well, how do you build a website? How do you build these email templates? How do the technologies work? And the closer and closer I got to the technology from my marketing roles, the more I wanted to stay there. And so I think it was really, it was just exposure over time. That I got there. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So you kind of slowly got there.
Yes.
Just being in different roles.
Yes. And then the product management experience was really awesome because I got to be firsthand, understand how to Scrum work, how do development teams operate, which is great because I had been marketing to an IT audience for quite a long time. But I got to actually kind of sit in their in their seats and learn what it was like, which I think is incredibly valuable for what I do today.
Yeah, it definitely is. So Jess, how did you get into the tech world?
I don't know. I think it was accident. I was sitting here trying to figure out when it happened. So when I was working at the Art Institute in admissions, I was selling people on this idea of digital design and website development, and I started getting really interested in it, interested in what I was actually selling, and yeah. So I decided to take classes at the Art Institute in addition to working there. So I ended up getting a certificate, which means nothing probably, in digital design. So I feel like that was kind of like my gateway. It was a way that I could use my art degree and be creative. And I always have loved marketing and advertising. Like my dream job would have been like Mad Men or something, but that never happened. So I from there, I went and I started my own business after I left the Art Institute. I had this tiny little business. So I learned a lot about e-commerce through that. Learned a lot about social media marketing and all of that. And from there, then I got the random gig at Angie's List that kind of led me into email marketing. So it all kind of happened organically, and it's all things that I just kind of followed my interests and my passions, which have led me to where I am today.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing a pattern here. Nobody chose here to be in tech, really. Like, it wasn't like I wanted to be in tech, and
yeah,
you
I went to a random Litmus conference like 8 years ago or something, and that was pretty much how they opened the email marketing conference. That it's like, hey, who here, raise your hand if you wanted to be in email marketing when you were little. It's like, no one, exactly. Like, because no one would have picked, like, didn't know that any of this was possible. When we were little. So it's just kind of riding the wave and figuring out everything as you go.
Exactly. So Amruta, I know we talked a little bit about some of your experience as a child, but with your dad wanting you to do math
Yeah.
in the car.
Yeah. My parents, I'm Indian, and Haley, when you said that like you tried the medical field and didn't like realize it wasn't for you, I can identify because I cannot even put a band-aid on myself. Like the slightest amount of blood, I will pass out. And I actually have like 2 different eyebrows from the 2 times I fell and cut myself from looking at my own blood. So for me, like I've always really loved numbers and math. And so that's kind of why I chose economics, but I didn't see myself in tech necessarily. I saw myself more as like a theorist, things like that. But then when I went to Ball State, my graduate assistantship, they just kind of made me teach the stats classes. And they were like 8 a.m. with undergrads who were 18 and absolutely hated being there. And I realized that I loved being there, whether they were listening or not. And so that's kind of where I learned like that I love numbers and working with data in general. So after I graduated, I just kind of looked for jobs that like I would literally just search for like SPSS Python in LinkedIn and try to find a job that like those are the 2 skills I had at that time that I could apply. So for me, it was like it's accidental in how I got my job, but I kind of knew I wanted to work with numbers. And then since then, I feel like I've just kind of fallen into these different roles until I got to the one that I'm in right now.
That's cool. It's definitely, that's exciting. Yeah, I don't know, statistics classes.
Yeah,
I feel like I didn't have a good high school teacher for my statistics, so didn't really like it because of the teacher. But I understand totally that analyzing data is fun. Just gets laughing at me. It is fun. Yeah, that's cool. And I know like each of you are like as far as level of technical goes, or you're in a really different levels, or like Jessica Abbott, you're doing really like deep dive development. So you do coding. I know Jessica D, you do some coding, but it's not as much. So I think one thing I kind of want to, this is not really a question, but I want to like to get your opinion on it, like for people that are here in the event, like how technical do you need to be in a tech field? Like what are your thoughts? I don't know, Jess, you are unmuted, so I would say
Darn it. I'm just like not that technical. I feel like mostly you just have to have curiosity and a need to learn what's going on and figure it out. So like just problem solving and curiosity. I mean, that's pretty much how I've learned most of the things. I feel like if it weren't for Google, I would not be here today because I mean, I feel like I have to Google everything that for my job. It's like, if I don't know it, I'm sure someone in the world knows it, and then I can just quickly learn it and apply it. So for my specific job, like I am a consultant, so as long as I can be like a nerd translator, that's what I call myself, then I personally don't have to be super technical, because at Lev there will be other people that are more technical that I can bring in and explain the situation, and I understand how everything works, but I might not necessarily be doing the coding. Like I can, but a lot of times I will hand that work off to people who enjoy it more than I do.
Yeah. So, yeah,
Yep.
that's definitely,
Like
yeah.
I will just give like, hey, Fate, help me.
Yeah, that's definitely a really great way to put it. I don't know what's your thought, Haley, on that.
Yeah, I think there's so in the two, like in my marketing roles, I would say that you don't necessarily need to be technical, but having a strong conceptual understanding of how code works is very helpful. It's not always essential, but it's extremely helpful. It helps situations. It helps prevent a lot of situations. It helps you communicate better. I do think you need to know math to be in digital marketing. Like you need to have a passion for numbers if you want to be in specifically in digital marketing. There's a lot of data analysis and it's getting more and more and more, and there are new tools coming out, and like even the concept of being like a citizen data scientist that helps you configure that so you don't have to be able to code as much. However, you still need to know math.
Yeah.
So I definitely think digital marketing is technical in that way. I think I similarly would consider myself a nerd translator. I kind of like that. I've never used that before. I think people with really technical jobs who excel at communication and people with communication jobs who excel at understanding technology do really well. It's hard, like those translation roles are becoming more and more important because there's so many more people involved in technology decisions. Every company is a technology company now. Roles like business analysts are really important. And there are some of those translation roles. So I would say I definitely don't need to get in and do like heavy lifting code. I could build a very basic website. I can build some email templates. I'm not super confident that I could do much more than that. But I think the biggest thing with technology is not trying to be an expert, but it's always changing. So always being open to like learning and asking questions and being comfortable with you're not going to know all the technology answers is almost more important than actually being highly technical.
Yep. No, I 100% agree on that. Asking questions, because yeah, you even if you have been in the field for a lot of years, there are things you don't know, and you always have to feel comfortable to say, oh, I don't know this thing, but I can go learn it or ask that question from somebody else that knows more about it. Yeah, that's definitely a good point to put there. And Rutha, I know your role is a little bit more technical, but how technical would you say it is? As far as coding goes, really.
Yeah, right now I want to say I spend 90% of my time in meetings, but like work-wise, I would say like 60% of my time is actually coding and 40% of it is a lot of not just like meetings to discuss like what a model should do or discuss what the data should look like or what data we even need or what exactly is the problem we're trying to solve. So like, I'll give you an example about like maternal health. One of my clients wants to study maternal health, but what does that actually mean? Does that mean death? Does that mean some sort of disease after having a child? So a lot of it is actually communication as well. I tell a lot of people who are like entering data science that you could be really interested in AI and machine learning, but you'll find that you can do that in maybe 10 lines of code. And there's so many packages to do that. But a lot of the work of like a data scientist is helping the client or even internal users like understand what they're trying to accomplish. So for me, I do think you need to be like have good technical skills in order to deliver the product people want, but like communication and problem solving skills kind of supersede that for me because you will have Google and Stack Overflow, but Google isn't really going to tell you like how exactly to frame an issue to your client.
Mhm.
So I'd still say like communication, problem solving over actual coding skills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that, yeah, that goes again back to asking questions, asking the right questions at the right time, really, from your clients. That would help you with that. Jessica, I would say just it's now.
Yeah, so much has already been covered. It's all been really, really
Yeah.
good. I am more on the technical side of writing. I spend most, it depends on what's going on at my job, but I spend a lot of time in code. I spend most days writing code. And I'm maybe as far opposite as Amrutha as you can be, because I'm at a small company, so there aren't a lot of meetings. It's usually me deciding what I think it should be or how I think it should work, and I just start building.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, I do. I really do like it. So I don't know, like technical is such a weird word, but like as far as just like trying to figure out how your brain works, I would say I've been surprised as a programmer. I don't think, at least the code I do, I don't end up using as much math as it was kind of presented to me that I would need. Although I do have a strong background in math and really like it. It is really more, in my experience, programming is a lot more about problem solving, or every time you write something, it's not going to work. And you just have to accept that whatever you write is going to not work the first time around. And you just got to dig in there and figure out what you did wrong and where you missed something. And it's really more of that, and almost kind of visualization is what I would describe it. Because a lot of times you're trying to follow a path of code. You're some sort of input is landing somewhere to some sort of output. And if something along that whole chain of things that are connected is not working, you need to be able to follow that and figure out what part of that isn't. And you kind of have to almost kind of be able to have that all in your brain at once and say, okay, where is the missing link, or what part of this could be causing an issue? So.
Yeah, it is a lot of like logical thinking. Like you do have to make that connection between all those pieces.
Yeah, or like SQL, I think is like the most challenging in that for me, because of visualizing all these tables and how they might, versus like JavaScript or C#, there's much more like flow to it of following something through.
Yeah. But I think one thing you just mentioned there briefly was like your code is not always going to work the first time. I think one thing that is necessary, I would say, is knowing how to troubleshoot and how to be patient, because you can't get mad if something doesn't work, because that doesn't help.
First time you're usually like, what? Is this real? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, I think you all kind of talked about your average day in some sense. I would say like, this is kind of similar. We kind of talked about this a little bit more, but what are some advice that you would have for somebody like, let's say Amrutha, what's an advice you have for somebody that is looking to get into a data science type of a role?
So for me, when I wanted to, like, my title was a statistical analyst before, which is like very redundant, I realize, but like when I wanted to get like the data scientist title, I actually like connected to people on LinkedIn who had that title, and I would get coffee with them and just figure out like what gap did I have between like where I was then and where I wanted to be. Like through a lot of those coffees is how I realized that like I really needed to get better at Python, that I needed to get more acquainted with different packages, that I kind of needed to just read more about what was happening in the industry. And to be like really frank, like from my first coffee with someone, it took me 2 years to get like the official data scientist title. And like one thing I did, like I worked at a startup where I thought like, because they talked a lot about AI, that maybe in 5 months I'd get that title, and it just didn't work out that way. Like it takes a lot longer to build skills. Definitely like there's boot camps and things like that. But and maybe it's my learning pace, but you have to kind of be patient with yourself too.
Mhm.
And like just be realistic. Like in those 2 years, I also like took time off, had a child, bought a house. Like life happens too, so don't aggravate yourself by thinking you're moving too slowly. Like we're gonna be working till we're like 60 or something, so like it's a fraction of your actual work time.
Mhm.
Um, and then like so there's a lot of that, like looking at people that whose titles I wanted and figuring out what I needed to do. And then for me, at least in my field, like I can never explain where it was and where it's going because it literally changes every day.
Mhm.
So kind of educate yourself, like by even taking like the 10 minutes to read a data science blog, or to read a new package, or to just go through Stack Overflow questions. Like you really need to be constantly learning something. It will help you write better code. It will just help you also be more efficient. So I guess that's my advice.
Mm. That's great advice. No, yeah, I think networking is really important, as you said, like just sitting with people, chatting. I think I'm probably my like for myself, like in my last job, and this job that I'm on right now, I got it through talking with somebody, just messaging them on LinkedIn and getting on a call with them and um, getting to the point that I am now. Definitely, that's important. Um, what's so, Jess, what type of advice do you have? I know your role is more in consulting, but I would say uh, because you were hired as a project manager, so I would say like in the consulting or project manager type of role, what are some advice you have for people if they're thinking about getting into like a technical project management role, or in a consulting?
Um, I think it's just, she said a lot of the same things I was thinking. So it's like really
Mm-hmm.
about power and proximity. So, sitting with people and asking them questions, and I think it's a lot of it's not being afraid to ask questions. I think a lot of times um, people are thinking that, they should already know it all or they can just use the internet and that's fine. But, actually making those connections and getting to know people and figuring out how other people um, solve problems and have done it previously. So I always say that I like Frankenstein stuff together, which I feel like that's probably how coding is generally, but that's how I do it. So a lot of times I will just take pieces from other people's solutions and then bring them together to make it work. So I would say that, and then also just not being afraid to fail a lot. I feel like I've gotten comfortable with failing. And I think, especially as a woman, it's not something that we're taught from an early age to be comfortable with that. There's a lot of perfectionism, and I think it took me a long time, and I'm still something I work on all the time, with being comfortable with failing and not doing more or not doing enough
Mm-hmm.
or all those things. So I would say, give yourself some grace and some patience, and as she was saying, just you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So um, just
Yeah.
doing it. Don't worry. Don't worry so much.
Yeah, it's a great advice. Yeah, I think it is definitely hard to get to that point, but yeah, it takes practice.
Yeah. Self-doubt
Um,
is the biggest one to get over, I think.
yeah, definitely. Um, so what are some advice you have, Haley, for anybody that is interested in getting into digital marketing type of a role?
Yeah, I think that um, I think my personal experience, I kind of going back to what Amrutha said about we have 60 years to work, we have plenty of time, is like, it's okay to try things and not like them. It kind of what Jess said too, it's okay to try things and fail.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned more about what I want through the process of elimination, probably more than I have through like going out and seeking it and finding exactly like a North Star I'm headed toward. And I think regardless of what technology career you want to go into, I think it's okay to kind of figure it out as you go. And I've worked with developers who got into email development, and then they really were like, wow, this digital marketing thing is great. And now they have phenomenal careers in marketing automation. So I think if you're interested, I think it's very common if anybody on here has like a coding background and you're like, maybe you get in there and like day to day, you don't love to code all the time. There are so many like your skills of problem solving, like Jessica was talking about, they translate to so many different careers. And so I think if you want to get interested in digital marketing, it is a lot about reading. There's a ton of online resources. I mean, digital marketers are who produce digital content. So like there's a lot of digital content about digital marketing. So there's some great resources online. There's more and more programs emerging that are more like certification programs for digital marketing, which I think is excellent. I actually think the non-traditional school route is doing a much better job in digital marketing than traditional four-year colleges. So it doesn't need to be like go back to school and get a marketing degree. I don't really think colleges and universities have caught up. But there's like great courses. I would look a lot on, I feel like I keep saying there's great things, and I'm not saying give you actual examples. But depending on like, if you're a technologist wanting to like maybe move more into a marketing role, I know I've probably talked too much about Salesforce, but there's some really good modules on their website about like, so Fatima and Jessica work for a company called Lev that does marketing cloud implementation. And there's these great trails where you can learn all about like how marketers use these technologies. It's honestly like, even if you don't want to go work for Salesforce, it's a really great way to kind of like a more applied way to understand what these jobs would be like and what they do than just going and reading a blog. So I definitely recommend Trailhead. Yeah, so I know that's not super great advice, but try new things. I think digital marketing is all about problem solving. There's sides of it. Like honestly, part of it is exploring roles. It's a very broad term. There are digital marketing roles that are very content and creative focused. And then there's roles where it's all about like, how do you build better segments? And there's so much AI that's being incorporated. Like this is a new thing I have to get used to, is I have to build user paths now for completely unknown users. We don't know who they are, but this tool knows who they are. It's always learning, but take some time to kind of like read job descriptions. I know that also kind of sounds silly, but like if you looked up my job title, product marketing manager, you're gonna read 4 or 5 different versions of it and not know what it is. So just read through different ones and what interests you. Yeah,
exactly. No, I think the job title is definitely one thing that I know, like Jessica and I, we both have like a senior solution architect is our job title. But if you look at like some other, even like Salesforce partner, their definition of solution architect is completely different than our definition. So yeah, there's definitely differences from company to company. So what are some advice you have, Jessica?
For people wanting to get into user experience design or development. I mean, a lot of it's already been covered in various ways. I mean, I think one of the biggest things I hear a lot of times among the developer crowd is the idea of imposter syndrome, which is especially difficult for women in the field. And I think the real challenge with that one is to just accept that, like, let's say development, there are so many libraries, there's so many languages, there's so much depth there that you're not going to start out day one and be like a whiz kid at any of them, right? And it's really important to just kind of be honest with yourself and accept that, and find those little moments where you can be like, yeah, I may not be like an absolute master at .NET, but I know how to do, you know, this particular thing, and I can make it work, and it will do something valuable that's interesting, and that feels good. So kind of in line with that, usually what I tell people if they're kind of new to development or user experience design is to come up with a project. If you're not already working in the field and you're kind of wanting to explore, like, come up with a project you're excited about and that you're really interested in, and try to start building it, because your excitement about that is going to propel you, and the things that you're going to encounter as you start to build it are going to be different than what you learned in the tutorial or what you read when you Googled Stack Overflow. And so that sort of process of slowly building on your knowledge while getting that nice little boost of like building something cool will really propel you forward, I think. So,
yeah.
So even if you have a job and you're in a field and you want to, you're like, oh, but I'd really like to, you know, add this language to my my
Mhm.
repertoire, then find a project in that and start building something in your free time. And
Yeah.
I think that can go. And then, yeah, everyone's kind of talked about keeping up with tech, but that's also really huge in development, because in my personal story, I spent a lot of time learning ActionScript, which is now a worthless thing to know. And I'm okay with that. So
Yeah, I think actually Asia, I think she's asking a question regarding the it's related to what we just talked about like internship when you are getting turned down. Where do you begin? It's funny because as she right before she wrote that question, I actually thought about internship because that was one thing that I told a friend of mine that she was new to tech world. I told her like that's one place you can start. You don't have to really like get a job somewhere. If you can find an internship someplace, a lot of time they keep you after you're done with your internship.
and the advice I would give about being turned down, it's kind of come up twice already.
Mm-hmm.
You may think that getting a job has to do with the skills that you have or what your resume looks like, and you will be shocked to find how much of it is networking. Like,
Yes.
I want to say 50% or more of it is who you know. So yes, it's important, and yes, it's great to build all that stuff, but make sure that you are shaking hands and going out to coffee. And I mean, I guess we're not allowed to shake hands right now. Like, making Zoom calls or reaching out to people on LinkedIn or coming to meetups and trying to meet people, because it's shocking how important that is, how important
Yeah.
it is to know somebody.
Exactly. Like it's just yeah, and also like one thing you can always do is find somebody that works at the place that you're trying to apply. Like a lot of time in LinkedIn, you can find like if you have a second connection with that person on your LinkedIn or a third connection, you can somehow make a connection there and then send them a message. People a lot of time will respond to your messages in there.
Agree. Yeah, I have a friend, she works in sales at NetSuite, and I met her while I was traveling, and she reviewed my LinkedIn profile when I was traveling, and she's like, you don't have 500 connections. Like, this is out of, like, what's wrong with you? Like, how are you, this old and you don't have, then you've had this much experience and you don't have enough connections. And so she like gave me like a deadline, or she gave me a goal of trying to get to like 500 connections. And I was like, how do I do this? I don't want to just start spamming people. So I started doing the same kind of thing. So I would look for companies that I was interested in learning more about, or looking for roles that I was interested in, like aspiring to be.
Mhm.
And then I would always, instead of just sending them a request, I would also put like a message and be like, hey, I'm really interested in learning more about this area. I'd love to connect. And I mean, I was able to hit that goal. So I think for me, it was really awkward at first to do that, because I was like, I don't know these people, or, it's awkward to network. But I think you, again, just have to kind of just suck it up and
Yeah.
be okay with feeling uncomfortable and weird. Like, a worst case, they reject, like they just hit no. Like
Yeah,
that's the worst case
exactly.
scenario. Like best case is, you actually start a conversation with somebody about a job, or a job, and you're able to do what you want to do. So
Yeah,
I'd say don't be
exactly.
afraid to network with people that are you don't know yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, yeah.
uh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Amrita.
I was just gonna add, like with the rejection, like when you're going through that process, it can be very easy to feel like you're maybe getting rejected at a higher rate than other people. Because like you don't know what other people are going through, right? But like for my very first job, my company called me back. The second time I applied for, like I wanted to leave that company, I probably applied for like tens of jobs again, and I only got one company to call me back. The third time I decided to switch, which I realize sounds like I switch a lot, which I have done, but like I got so many more people calling me back. Some of it is just being early in your career. And I think the other thing is like, you have to be creative to reach out to that person, because I think a lot of employers look for people who would do is like, I actually write my resume in a dark blue and light blue ink. I just want when someone opens that envelope for it to stand out from all the black and white. LinkedIn, like if you're a good stalker, like switch from Facebook to LinkedIn and you will find the hiring manager. You'll probably find people in that department. Just reach out to them so that they don't forget you when they're talking about like who to interview in their weekly meetings. But like on that, just remember that like especially really early on, it is a numbers game. So like the more you send out, the higher likelihood of being called back. And like just remember that like rejection is not, it's not just you, that it's something that everyone has to kind of go through. And the more you like just kind of view those things as like practice for the job that you're actually going to get.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, I think, yeah, like we all talked about like right now about like contacting the person. Like when I was looking at Lev, which is used to be called Levimentum when I started at Lev. Why basically how I did apply, I applied for the job, and then right after I applied for the job, I messaged the head of HR. And I was like, I applied for this job. I'm really interested to learn more about it. And then she reached out, and she even like said like, oh, we can get on a call. And then I had some concern about the type of role, and she even like connected me with somebody that worked at the company for a while. And I talked to him, and then we followed the process, and it moved really fast after that. Yeah, I really say that's really important. I know we have some more questions in there. We can get to those. I think some of those is already on the list of our questions, so we will answer those. So what are some of the some tips and tricks that you have that you use on your daily work? Like there are certain things that you do every day to make your life easier at work. Do you have anything in mind? I would say this time whoever comes up first can go. Amrutha, I think I saw you unmuted.
Yeah. So I draw a lot before I write code or before I'm like talking to a client. Like it's really weird, but like I spend so much time on a computer that I like to use paper and pen a lot. So, and it just helps me like think clearer. I also like work in consulting, so I have multiple clients at a time, and they can be like talking about completely different topics. So if I don't draw it out and kind of like make it a little amusing for myself, then like I can say the wrong thing to a client, honestly. So that's like probably the weird thing that I do that's really helpful for me.
No, nothing is weird about that. Who wants to go next? I see Jess.
I was gonna say that's not weird because I do the same thing. Like I think it's also, but it's been happening more that I've been working from home. Like I think in the office I didn't do this as much, but like creating a to-do list and making sure and writing it out, and then making like more diagrams and kind of drawing out solutions has been happening a lot more at home. I think it's because normally I'm a very verbal person and I speak to think, and there's no one here. So I have got to start drawing and like writing it out. And before the Rona, I would talk to Fatima. I would just turn to her and then think through my solution. So it was, unfortunately, she was like my rubber ducky, and I would like speak all of my solution out. But now I've gotten more into the method of writing a to-do list, kind of getting my game plan together, and then really like diagramming things out for myself. So, yep.
That's good.
I think too, like, I don't know if this is a tip or a trick, but something that I didn't realize I was, I guess, good at in the workforce until I had my former boss. She was like, you just always know what's going on. And I know that sounds weird, but part of your job is to know the people you work with too, just spending time to get to know like who they are as people, what their motivators are within their job, what the motivators they have outside of their job. It really helps you navigate projects. It helps you collaborate with people better. It helps you prioritize things. So So I think too, just like that's important. Like it's nobody wants to work crazy hours, but spending a little part of your week just getting to know people and even just like their frustrations and motivators in work, I find that really helpful. Helps me have the full context, like in certain situations. So I really do think that as part of having a job too is that it's more than just like people are more than just your coworkers. They're people too. So I would definitely say that goes a long way for me is getting to know people and kind of I don't like the word political in the workforce, but like you got to know how to navigate people and situations so that you can learn, so you can move projects forward. So,
yeah, 100% agreed on that.
I think my tips and tricks would be for in the code world would be like documentation and password management is really helpful. We use IT Glue, so every single password for every single account, and there's like documentation about like what this account is for and why it's used and why we have 2 different GoDaddy accounts, and and a lot of documentation about especially processes or languages that I don't use very often. So SSL certificates, I only do like twice a year. So every time I kind of forget all those steps I have to go through. So documenting, you know, you don't want to think about it in the moment because you got it done and you're like, okay, can go move on. But it's so much better if you just stop and like write down, okay, what did I do and why did that work? It makes your life so much better the next time around. It's surprising how much time you'll waste if you don't just stop and do that. So.
Because you don't remember next time you get to that.
Yeah, then you have to troubleshoot. You spend another 2 hours remembering how you did that last time. And then you figure it out and you feel good and you want to move on, but no, stop. Write it down.
Yeah, that's a really great advice too. I think I'm gonna skip some of these questions. And I know this is something that has been, I think, in the media recently a lot, and also just has been a lot of talk about that. But what's your opinion on diversity in tech in Indianapolis? How do you see it? Do you see it as, and also like what do you think that the tech companies can do to have a higher rate of diverse workforce in their companies? I don't know. Amrutha, I don't know if you want to start there.
Yeah, I can start. So for me, I'll start off by saying I definitely wish there was more diversity. Like I go to a lot of events, and as much as I love them, like I do tend, and this is just my personality, like I tend to walk in there and like count the people who aren't in the majority. And even on like the leadership, like I recently went through someone's social media account to count how many non-white voices they posted. So like it's something I'm very sensitive to. At the same time, like my current data science team, and this is not the entire company, there are only 2 white males on it. The rest of us are all international or American non-white. So like personally in my team, I feel like there's a lot of diversity. And I think it's important for a lot of reasons. Like I'm very grateful to still have my job during this pandemic. And I think like tech, granted there were also like a lot of layoffs and turbulence in the tech industry, but it can kind of afford you like a good paying job and flexibility. So if you have a 16-month-old who's going to storm into this room anytime, like I that's something like I feel like everybody should have the opportunity to have, you know. In terms of like what people can do, unfortunately too vocal. So like I've told my HR company, like my HR team at my company, that we need to kind of move beyond referrals alone, because if you have a majority white company and people tend to have social networks that look like them, a referral system kind of just creates a pool where it just mimics the existing structure. I also am like a little bit of a critic of culture of fit, because I think that just mimics the majority group. And like look at things about like people being cultural additions to your group. Literally look for someone who's the complete opposite of you, because they may be the one who finds like the point in your code that doesn't make sense. So yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm a little too drastic, but I think companies need to move beyond saying things and kind of looking for that diversity.
That's such a great point. Yeah, I never thought about the referral the way you put it.
It's a really great point, and I think working for I work for a company where we're 100% remote, and the company I worked for before was as well, and they do a lot better job of having a more diverse workforce than the companies I've worked for that are based only out of Indianapolis. And I think saying things like, well, the candidate pool is only this or only that, it's at this point it's an excuse. And I think I would like to see people be more proactive in how they recruit. And Indianapolis has a lot of large companies, not just small startups, and I think they can model it off some of the more progressive big tech companies who do they do audits, they have requirements, and like, but it can't just be referrals. Like they have to meet, their candidate pool has to reflect like their diversity goals, and it should be mandated. I think there's a lot of discussions about like you like pull people up with you, and I think that's really important, and there needs to be more of an emphasis on that. There are some good programs in Indianapolis where tech companies are going into school, like high schools, and educating and like getting high school age interns and like trying to promote tech diversity at a younger age. And I think those are good, but it needs to be more in Indiana. I think that's been very eye-opening to me. I don't have a great solution for it right now, but I think Indianapolis is behind compared to some other places. And it's been very interesting working in an ecosystem where companies are, to be part of the ecosystem, they're held to a higher standard. And I think like as a community, we should hold it. Like Amrita, I think that it's awesome that you went into HR and did that. And I was on a diversity inclusion like networking panel yesterday, and every single person on it was white. And so that we've got to like do a better job at actively asking people to be at the table with us. And I think a really good example of this, and it's a gender diversity thing, is Sitecore is a large like web CMS technology. They have a massive conference, and at the conference last year they had a women in tech panel, and they had 4 men slated to be the panelists. And the VP of sales from my company was asked to be on it, and he said, absolutely not, and I'm giving my position to a woman. And he took a woman, like the head of our PMO for my company, she was a woman, and he was like, we're only going to support this panel if like you replace her and others. And that, like, it takes that, like it is active. It is not just I support. And I think those are really good examples of how like you have to be actively thinking about it. You can't just say, well, I believe this.
Yeah, I agree. I think be the change you wish to see in the world. I know it's cliche, but I said it. All right. I get Lev. We started a Lev Ladies group a little bit over a year ago. Like right when I became manager, I decided that I was also going to start a women's group at the company and give myself a panic attack because I thought I was taking on too much. But now it's grown into a wonderful group at the company, and we have 50% women at Lev. And it's grown into, and now we're going to have more affinity groups. Like we're still a pretty small company, like less than 200 people. And we're working on BLM initiatives and Pride initiatives, and really kind of focusing on how we can start integrating diversity into hiring practices and all of that. And just speaking directly with like our head of HR as well, she is just like, I don't want to just check a box. Like I understand that I think we should set goals. Like, because I was all about let's measure where we are. Because like with Lev Ladies, I asked HR to pull some demographics for me so that I can know where we are and see how we're growing and how many women are in leadership and all of that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Lev evolves in the diversity and inclusion area. And I know that it's top of mind because of recent events, but I'm definitely, we actually have a pretty diverse group for, we're calling it One Lev, for our diversity and inclusion group. And I'm pretty excited about like how we're going to start implementing some of those hiring practices and getting it together. But I do agree that Indianapolis is very white. You know, like it's we have a long way to go, and I think it's all about just reaching out to others and bringing them in. They have that opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
I guess what I'll add, I think going back to that idea of imposter syndrome, I think it can be even harder to combat that as a developer if you don't look like your coworkers, that you feel different in some way, whatever that way is that makes you feel like you don't belong. The imposter syndrome can be that much harder to overcome. It's almost like you feel like you need to be even better at what you do just to hold your own and keep your place. I know something that's been really valuable to me and that I've seen other workforces maybe not do as well is not only should you be trying to hire a diverse workforce, but you need to help, like you need to put a system in place to help them reach their potential. So even questions like if you need to have managers that say like, how can I support you? What do you need from me? Can I help pay for you to learn something new? Is there a conference you should be going to? Like having that kind of, so it's not just like, oh, we got you in the door and so now we have a more diverse workforce, but like, how do we make sure everyone's like reaching their potential and feeling that sense of being supported and that like that they can get where they want to go.
Yeah, exactly. I know we already passed the 7 p.m. that we were supposed to stop the questions and turn it over to people that are on the call. I will just ask one more question and then we can move on to some of the questions we had on the chat. So I would say this is a question that I'm kind of interested to hear from everybody on the panel is, what is the greatest challenge you personally had to face as a woman working in technology, and how did you overcome it? I know Jessica was just talking about imposter syndrome, but what was, if you have an example.
Are you passing it back to me?
You can go for it.
I think the most challenging thing I've experienced is having a boss that was misogynistic without realizing that he was. And so basically going through the process of making my ideas his so that we could do them. And working, I see some nodding head. And eventually I earned his respect to the place where I didn't have to go through that every time. But it's disappointing that I had to do that ever. So
how did you overcome it? Like it's just eventually happened naturally?
Yeah, basically I pushed and I felt that the ideas I had were really important and I just kept bringing them up and I kept pushing and I wouldn't take no for an answer. And there came a time where he finally realized that I knew what I was talking about and what, like, as he saw what I was making and how much everyone was liking it and how it was working really well, then he was like, I think it eroded that sense of like him knowing best and like, oh, Jessica really does know. Well, no, that didn't translate to my female coworkers, unfortunately. And I had to continue to, once I was in that place, I had to kind of stand up for them. But yeah, luckily my boss now is amazing and super supportive and always asking what he can do to help support me and what I need. And so.
Yep, that's definitely difficult to deal with. I don't know if, Jess, you want to go next?
I had a similar situation, but I think the biggest thing I had to overcome was my own anxiety in meetings, and because I feel like a lot of times I remember being in meetings in management, like I was a manager, like I had a seat at the table and my heart would be racing and I would just be terrified to speak. And I was like, what is my deal? Like, I am not this person. Like, I'm very, like, I normally can talk to anybody, but I just felt so nervous for like the first, like, I'm going to say like 4 or 5 months, just because I wasn't sure it was okay. And I think it does take male allies, like really speaking up for you. I would be in a meeting and I would have one of my coworkers, and he would be like, "Oh, actually, Jessica just said that." You know, he would speak up for me and reiterate, you know, the things that like, hey, like you need to give Jessica credit for saying that, because I feel like I've had managers before where they are. They can be accidentally misogynist. I don't think they mean it. He didn't mean it. Like that's what I hope. But it was also like patronizing a little bit, because I'm a single woman, and he would be like, "Oh, I'm a little bit worried about you, like living in the city." I'm like, "You would never say this if I was a dude." Like, it's awkward. I just feel weird. I feel like a child. I don't know. Like, I don't like it. So I think it's just having those, creating those friendships, like we said before. You know, having those people that are allies, that are men that can speak up for you. But honestly, for me, it was just I needed to get out of my own way and get out of my own head and just start talking, and it's okay. Like, and I think from the feedback that I've heard from my current company, like they want more of my voice. So that's encouraging to hear that, because I was worried for a while.
Yep, it is terrifying when you're sitting with a room full of men.
Hard, yeah.
It's definitely hard. Yeah. I don't know, Haley, any experience?
Yeah, I think for me, it's sort of like it's self-confidence tied. Like it is imposter syndrome, and it's second guessing. No, like, am I the problem? I had like 3 leaders. They weren't all my direct managers in a row, who were I don't even know how you say that, like what if there's a word for this, but there is a pattern I have noticed, and it's usually men, that when you ask them questions they don't know the answer to, they turn it back on you, and it's frustrating. And I worked in some chaotic working environments, and my approach is very consultative. I want to ask questions because I need to have all the clarity to help. I like to try to bridge gaps. And I had like a couple pretty bad experiences in a row with male executives, where if I were to ask a question, like, and they didn't know the answer to it, that meant I was negative. And I think for me, the biggest thing with that is like realizing that that's a pattern in toxic masculinity, and not me causing that. And not every situation is going to be like that. And it is okay to speak up and have my voice. And my current boss, I worked with him before, and I'm working with him again, and he is fantastic. And he says things like, "I just love how you always say what you think. Like, we need more people who are like passionate about what they do." And when they called to give me the offer, it was a little bit different than I thought it was going to be. And he's like, "Haley, this is your cue to negotiate, and I'm on your side." Like, it's okay to leave bad situations and seek out good situations because they're there. So I think the 2 big things for me is like it's realizing it's my journey and nobody else gets to judge it. So I get to leave situations when I want to. And then when I have left them, realizing I've left them. And so don't expect the negative always. Those are kind of the two things I've had to get over. And I'm working through it every day. But not every person out there is bad, and you can't change everyone. So
Yep. You can only try. Can only work a little bit. Amrutha, I don't know if you had any.
Yeah. I think for me, I've definitely worked in a lot of work environments where, like at one company, I was the second woman on the entire engineering team. And like there's a lot of folks, or like men, taking credit for your work or not giving you work because they think it's too much for you. Or like, even if you can code, leaving the presentation side of things or the management of it to you rather than the actual build. And then like, apart from like the misogyny, which I sadly feel like too many of us go through. For me, I think it's like what Haley was saying about like know when to leave a situation, because I think to a degree we're socialized to accept the way things are. But like leaving a situation for me was like tremendous. Like it gave me like internal peace, and I also realized that like there actually are environments where you have like guys and women who'll give you credit for your work, who'll give you things that are challenging and like let you succeed at it. And even if you fail, they're going to tell you that that failure is just a part of the work experience, not necessarily who you are. um and so like I guess that's just some of the negative, but um I think like you'll just get called names and like you'll feel out of place a lot. And I guess the solidarity is just knowing that there's other people like that. They just may not be in the room with you, but they're definitely out there. So
Yeah, that was really similar experiences, I think, across everybody. Um, I think I can get onto the questions that we have in here from, I think Sam asked a question regarding internship. She was asking she's currently a college student. What is the next step after internship? What should she be doing while she's still in school? I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that.
I think the biggest things would be, it depends on what field you're thinking about getting into, but like kind of what we talked about, networking is so big. So start building that network now. Start, reaching out to people and going to events and trying to make yourself known. And then depending on what you want to get into, I know in the development world, I'd tell you to start building your portfolio, start building some projects that show that you know what you're doing. I don't know if that applies as well for the other fields represented, or if anyone wants to.
Yeah.
I think I just said, oh, sorry. I would just second networking. I think it's really intimidating to reach out and ask questions, but your school might have an alumni network. I pretty regularly get LinkedIn messages from college students who went to the university I went to, and I love to grab coffee. Like before COVID, I think I was doing like a networking coffee a week. Some of it's me asking people, some of it's vice versa. And I think I kind of have a rule of thumb for like every coffee I ask to do, I want to do at least one to kind of, different spot when you're a student than when you're several years into your career. But I think if you're scared to reach out, like it could make someone's day. Like people, like there's so much imposter syndrome from social media, just like people get freaked out about people's perfect lives on Instagram. You see promotions, you see this and that. So I think people like to be reached out to and have human connections. And so you might make their day even if you're scared to do it.
Yep. Jessica, I think now you can go.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, I was networking, yes. But I also used to do like a lot of like random freelance work. Like I would look at like, the only one I can think of off the top of my head is like Fiverr, which is not the best one. But there are other like random websites where you can pick up some odd jobs within design or digital marketing. And you can sell yourself as being good at it and you can learn it, which is probably not the best thing to do. I don't know. But I mean, you obviously go within your own skill set, but it's just good to have like that experience. And then you're also kind of working on those soft skills as well. I mean, just thinking about them as, being your client, like think about yourself as being like, independent contractor, and like these people are your clients. So you're building those relationships and those soft skills in addition to potentially building a portfolio of just like these little mini projects that you can do in addition to coursework or your internship work just in your free time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with networking. I think somebody mentioned our Slack channel. I have the link up here in a second. Definitely like joining like our Slack channel. We have so many different, our Slack workspace, we have so many different channels that you can join in and talk with people and connect there as well. Next question. As far as like any specific resources that you can sort of just start into tech, like a program or a course, I think it depends on what I can answer some of that, but I think it depends on what type of a role you're thinking of getting into. There are all these different programs. I think Kenzie's Academy is one. I know, Haley, you probably are familiar with this, but there are programs that Salesforce does. There's PepUp Tech, and I can't remember the name of the other one. If you want to get into Salesforce ecosystem. Anybody else here have any other suggestions?
There's a ton of great coding resources. I'm like blanking on the one. I think it starts with a J. It's free. I don't know, but there's like, I mean, there's a ton of different coding resources. I'm gonna now look at Google. Somebody chat it.
I was gonna say there are so many. I went through a lot of ones on lynda.com, and I don't even know if it's a big thing.
Oh yeah, Linda.
Thank you.
But
Not a J.
And so that's the one you were thinking of?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And since, I mean, that was back when I first started learning this, like 13 years ago. That was the big one. But there are so many more now that Lynda's great, but it's mainly video based. There are actually a lot of sites now where you can actually practice coding, and it'll tell you to do a thing, and you actually have to type the code in and click submit, and see if you can, like, I think Code Academy is one of them, and I don't know if Khan Academy has that such stuff. I don't know, there's so many. There's like, I'm not sure I could recommend any particular one because there's so many.
Yeah. And also, like, I think one thing, all of these different resources on coding is actually the free ones. They're really helpful because then you can see what is the one that interests you the most. And then if you want to really go into getting a degree from somewhere like Kenzie's Academy, then you can go pick that specific field. And Marutha, I think you had something to say too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, there's a lot of resources paid and free. Something I'd recommend is, like, if you don't have a ton of experience, definitely go for the free and, like, dedicate time to doing it. Like, if that's every Saturday morning or like multiple times a week, like, try something free and make yourself do it every day to see if it's really something you want to do long term. Like, I say that because I think there's a ton of fascination with tech, and there is so much fascination with AI and ML, and then people get disappointed when I say, hey, I spent 11 hours yesterday formatting data, 30 minutes presenting it. And so, like, you kind of need to understand that, like, tech isn't all fluff. It is a lot of hard work and time as well. So, like, do something free, do it every day, see if it's something you, like, can do for a long term.
Mm-hmm.
Or want to even. Can is
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you will spend a lot of money and resources into it. It's probably better to know where you want to be at. Next question is from Bethany. She says she's currently a PMP candidate and branching into the blockchain as a solution architect. What do you recommend to improve my management skills as well as confidence in discussing business solutions in an emerging field? It's a lot of questions. It's a hard question. Yeah, I don't know if anybody.
I think there's a course called Pragmatic Marketing, which I know it has the word marketing in it, but it's actually like the biggest framework for product management as well. And it has some really interesting ties between project management and like how you navigate like communicating within your company, and you make customer-driven decisions or data-driven decisions rather than like personal decisions. And I think Pragmatic is a really interesting framework. And if you're going from project management into like more solutioning, it might be really interesting because they have some really good, it's very widely accepted. Like, it's a big certification in the product world, and I would check that out. There's a lot of resources online too that you don't have to pay, like a lot of their blog articles, but Pragmatic Marketing, I would look at that.
That's good advice. I don't know if anybody else has any advice. If not, yep, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah,
We're talking about like getting better as a manager or being better as a
yeah,
project.
that's.
Those different? I feel like those are different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually my confusion too as well. I don't know if Bethany, if you're on a call, you can unmute and if you want to explain.
Yes. Hi. So I was just, can you repeat that? So as a manager versus what again?
Project
A
management.
manager versus like manager, like as in leadership in your company versus project manager.
So is it like, are you talking about people management or project management?
Thank you. Yeah.
Really people management, I think, really. I'm currently 24 and I'm currently working as a business analyst and merging into IT fields. As a PMP project manager, I really want to improve in my confidence when speaking with stakeholders, people within my team versus other clients and people above me. So I just want to have that confidence when it comes to managing people and just working in a good environment, I guess.
Mm.
Well, I've only been a manager for about a year. I mean, I've had some roles in management-ish that I would call throughout my career. But over the course of this year, I feel like I've been reading a lot of books on management. I'm trying to figure out. I remember when I became manager, I was like trying to figure out what a manager dresses like. So I went out and like bought blazers. I don't know why. I'm a crazy person. So I was trying to think through like visualize for myself what kind of manager I would like to be and which managers and management styles I've responded best to. And I really tried to focus on that for myself. And then I would be reading a lot of books. Like I read like Brene Brown, like Lead Through Change, I think it is. And it talks about vulnerability in leadership. And I think a lot of that was helpful for me to try and develop who I am as a manager. And also just having, when you have a team, like just having a genuine interest and genuine care about the career of these people that you're working with, and talk with them genuinely about their goals. And for me, I've always told my people, I'm like, I don't like, I want you to stay at Lev, obviously, but if this is not your path, then like, let me help you get there. So I think it's really just about feeling confident in yourself and thinking about, what kind of a manager you want to be, and really just kind of manifesting that and finding the way, because no one's going to be the manager that you are, so just kind of make it your own.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of time I think in your career you can kind of, by having different managers, because you probably had different managers, I think you can learn, you can see what are some of the things that you really enjoyed in your manager, and you can practice those when you are managing people as well.
Yeah, you can just ask people too. Ask, because everybody likes to manage differently. So I'll just ask them. I'm like, this is my plan. This is my strategy. This is how I do it. But if this doesn't work, if you don't like me being like your accountability partner and like asking you these things, like, cool, we can switch to a different strategy.
Yep.
And that's also, it's great because it's teaching me, how to be a different manager to different people. So good to just ask.
Yeah. I know we are at time. I don't know, just Jessica Abbott, do you know if there is another event going on after this? Just
Another
want to make
event?
sure that from Women Who Code. I just don't want anybody. Okay. Don't know.
We could
Yeah,
probably do one more question and then wrap up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Open it up to anybody.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people have been asking about. So one question I see in here that I think Jade has asked was about mentor and mentorship, and asking if we have any advice. I want to say that we actually, as Women Who Code, we started a channel for mentorship. We haven't got a lot of feedback, a lot of people in there yet, and I think it's because we started it right before COVID. So it's kind of like has been slow. I would say that's one place that you could use for mentorship, just finding somebody. And also another thing I want to say is this is something that Jessica D and I are part of now is Pass the Torch for Women. They do a lot of mentorship too. That's another place that you could join and they would find you a mentor. I think their mentorship is starting soon in August. I think they're pairing people during that time.
The Indianapolis Women in Technology Group, they have an IWET mentorship program as well, and you can sign up for a mentor. And I think one of the best linking indie women, like she was phenomenal, Angela Smith-Jones, she's the deputy mayor for the city. She's fantastic. And she said, so many people miss the opportunity at mentorship because they're waiting for somebody to come to them. And it really like inspired me to like just go, like I was kind of, it was like a thing I needed to hear right then. And but don't be afraid to ask for mentorship too. I definitely think I was in a fairly not great working situation, and I credit like my mentor for helping me get through. She actually works at Lev. Like she scheduled check-ins with me and like would hold me accountable to make sure I wasn't just kind of like curling up into my shell and not doing things. So I think mentorship is incredibly important. There's programs that do it, but also if you have a professor, a coworker, an older cousin who's, you know, kicking ass in the workplace, like reach out to people and ask. And I just think it was phenomenal advice and she's not wrong. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Remember, we thought you were saying something.
Yeah, with mentorships, like I'm actually very, very introverted. It like takes me a lot to reach out to someone. So I definitely like it's gonna be getting out of your comfort zone. But for me, like the one piece of like consolation for me was that the other person, like I'm assuming they're an extrovert, I'm assuming they're comfortable, and they really may not be. So definitely reach out. But like if you're, I will say like I met a lot of people, and in the beginning, they would ask me like, what can I do? They would ask me what they could do for me, and I didn't have an answer because I didn't actually know what I wanted or like how mentoring is supposed to work. So I definitely say like if you're gonna reach out to someone, like be specific about like what you would like from them, or at least have some idea, like to be respectful of their time. Yeah, so I'll leave it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if Jess or Jessica, either of you have anything to add there.
I don't really have too much to add there. But I think
Yeah,
I never really had a mentor other than like a coworker mentor, and he kind of was that without really coming out and saying that. Just someone that kept telling me, yeah, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, keep doing it.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there are lots. We've already named a lot of great resources there. If you're in Indy, there are a lot of choices for finding a mentor, or like we said, just find somebody on LinkedIn that's doing what you want to do and see if you can ask them. But I think the first time I was a mentor to someone, I didn't know for sure what value I could bring them. And as soon as we got talking, I realized, oh my gosh, there's like so much that I take for granted that I do all the time that's brand new to them. So like, you might not know what you don't know until you reach out to somebody.
Exactly. Yep. 100% agree.
One last
Ditto.
thing to just add, I'm sorry, I keep talking over
I just said
everyone.
ditto. You're good.
Oh, okay. Is just since this is a women's group, women tend to ask for mentorship, like how to coach through things, and men tend to ask for sponsorship, which is like how to get me from point A to point B and how to get a new job. So I think mentorship is great. I just raved about it, but don't be afraid to ask for okay, I say don't be afraid. I've never asked for a sponsor, but like know that your male counterparts are asking for that, and they're very, very like specific in what they want and how to get there. And if you want to approach it that way, you're not wrong, and you can.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great point. Yeah, I think just thank you again, Jessica, Haley, and Amrutha. I think thank you for taking time and answering all these questions. So again, if you want to join our Slack channel, this is you can use this card website, and it's /social. I think Maya just posted it again in the chat as well. You can use that to join. If for some reason you didn't see the link now, and you want to join later on, we usually have it on our meeting invites. We have the links for some of our meetings. We have the links to our Slack channel that you can join. And we have 2 upcoming events that we're going to have, and both of them are Collab and Code. We have React for July 20th and Ruby in August 17th. And again, thank you for being here. This was great. I hope everybody here learned something, took away something from this event. And we are looking forward to see you on the next event. I don't know if, and we can stay here for a little bit. And if anybody has anything to add, go for it. Cool. Thanks again. Yes, the webinar is recorded. I actually have to stop recording now.